So the first thing you need to do is remove this shroud, this black shroud around the actual speedometer, and that'll expose the screws that hold it down to the dash itself. And a good tool to use for that is a number 2 stubby. This is a stubby screwdriver. This is about an inch. This is an 1.5 inch number 2. I'm going to try a new little tool I have. It's a ratcheting right angle screwdriver, and of course I'm going to be using a number 2 bit on that as well. And there's 2 screws you need to remove, one here and one here. So you may want to move the steering wheel out of the way. I don't want to do that because it'll kill the angle and you won't be able to see it. So I'm going to do it right now and show you how that works with my ratcheting screwdriver. Okay, so there's number 2 out of there. At this point, you should drop down your steering wheel to its lowest level. So I'll do that. There we go. And what are we going to do here? And let me back that up so you can see what I'm going to do. Sorry. What I'm going to do next is remove the shroud by pulling it out. And I'm going to grab it by the bottom and unclip it. There's a clip on either side, so I'm going to pull it from the bottom until it unclips. There we go. And then it just pulls out. And there's the shroud out of that system. And you see right here, 2 little clips, one here and one on the right side there. The 2 holes where the screws were, right there. And it just basically hooks onto the top of the instrument cluster here. I'm not sure whether you can see that or not. Let me adjust that. Hooks onto the instrument cluster right here. And that's it. Basically just pull it out and off we go. Now we have access to all the screws in the actual instrument cluster, and I'll show you that next. All right, we got that shroud off now. Next we have 4 screws that need to come off, and they're number 2 Phillips as well. There's one here at the bottom left hand corner, another one at the bottom right, one at the top right here, and another one at the top left. And I'm just going to use my number 2 1.5 inch stubby screwdriver and take those out. Okay, so we got all 4 screws out. Now the instrument cluster is ready to be pulled out. And things to note is that they have very short wires on this instrument cluster. You'll see that here in a second. So I'm just going to grab it and pull it out. And as you can see, it's pulling out. But it stops at a certain point like it just did. And reason being, it's, again, a very tight fit. So let me drop the steering wheel down because that's my issue right now. Sorry, but I know it's going to be in the way, but it's going to help me get my hands in there to get it out. Okay, so I'll put that steering wheel back up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what I did is I tipped it forward, and now I'm pulling it out. And before you pull it out, again, I'm going to drop the steering wheel down again. You'll see there's 3 electrical connectors on the back, and each of them has a locking tab in the center, and you need to disconnect those locking tabs. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, so I've got to change the angle here, and I've got the steering wheel dropped all the way down, and I'm folding the instruments cluster forward as far as it'll go. And it's very tight. You have a little bit of leeway, but not much. That's about as far out from the actual opening on the dash that you can get it out. But you'll see there's a little locking tab on the top one. So I'm going to start with the left one because it seems to be the shortest. So I'm going to push down on that locking tab and then wiggle the cable out. Okay. And it's on and it's very stiff. So there we go. So there's one off right there. That's the left-hand sided one. And it does seem to have extra cable on it, but still, you can't get that cluster very far out. Okay, now I can reach a little further out with this cable off. I could have actually pulled it out a little further here too and gotten a better angle here. Here we go. So there is enough that you can pull it out and get your hand in there and unlock it. That's number one. Now I'm going to do number two, which is the blue one on the left, on the right hand side, sorry. And same procedure there. Is bring it forward. I'm going to use my screwdriver, standard screwdriver, push down on the tab and pry it out. There it is. And I'll show you the back of the cluster here in a second, but basically, you see, it's so tight in here. There's the connector. And you can see there it's blue and it has a little locking tab in the center. And like I said, I just pried on it with the, pushed down on it with a screwdriver and pulled it out. And there's a third one right in the center of the instrument cluster, which I don't think I'm going to be able to show you. I'll see if I can. There it is. Let me see if I can see it. Let me change the angle here on the camera so you can see the third one. There's the center one in the middle of the instrument cluster, and basically again it's got a tab in the center. Unlock the tab and pull the actual connector off, and try not to pull on the wires, pull on the actual connector. You don't want to rip the wires out because then you're into another mess, which is replacing the connector or fixing the wires, one of the two. And like I said, they're very stiff, so that's why I'm using the screwdriver. That's it. Off it goes. And again, there's the connector. And at this point, we can take the whole instrument cluster out like that. And I'll show you what that looks like. You know, actually, yeah, I'll show you what that looks like from the rear. And you can see all the lamps and stuff that go into it. Okay, here's my instrument cluster removed from the actual dash. And as you can see, I have a rather large crack here, a small one starting over here, and a little bit of discoloration up here. But you can't see that because the shroud actually covers that little portion of the actual glass on this instrument cluster. Now, I bought the replacement glass on eBay for $28, and I've been told, yeah, you can buy an entire speedometer for $35 used on eBay, but I'm not sure where the mileage is stored, whether it's actually stored in a computer on the actual instrument cluster, or whether it's in the computer on board the car or the Santa Fe. So I'm not going to take a chance on that, number one. Number two, the used clusters I've seen are pretty dirty, pretty scratched up. So I want to replace the glass and make it new again. Now, a couple things I noticed right off the bat on this glass is that it's actually broken on these tabs here. You see this tab here, if you can see them. There's a tab here, and also a tab up here. And that basically plugs into the shroud in three places, here, here, and here. And I'm thinking that's what caused it to break. Somebody not pulling the shroud off incorrectly, or you know, hitting the shroud and putting pressure on those points. So I'd recommend when you're putting it back, the cluster back into the actual car, that you don't push too hard on these points because they will crack, obviously. Also, there's some protective tape on these tabs here. Here, I'm going to show you. There's some protective tape, like a rubber type of tape here on these tabs that did not come on my replacement glass. I don't have that kind of tape, so I'm just going to use a little bit of Velcro tape that I have here. It's about the same thickness, and it's pretty, it has a nice cushion to it, so I'm sure it'll do the job, same job as that tape does on that glass. So let's remove the glass. So I'm going to flip this over, and you can see that there's three locking points at the top, so you just need to push down on them and push forward. So I'll do that. There, and there, and just, oh, not quite unlocked there. There we go. And on the other side, there's a couple more, and there actually a few of them are broken. There was one here, and there was one here, but it's broken, so I can't really show you pushing those down, but here's the last one, and it comes off. Now, I'm just going to leave it loose there. You want to leave the cover on the actual cluster as long as possible to avoid getting any dirt in there. So I'm going to take my other glass that I got from eBay and pull this off and place this back onto it. And I can already tell there's a bit of dust on this, So I'm going to clean that off with a lens cleaning cloth and make sure that it's nice and clean all the way around. And then I'm going to push it down and secure it. All right, there it is, nice and clean. I used a lens cloth and some soap and water, and clean it right up nice and spotless. So now I'm just going to push it down on these little locks. And lock it down all the way around. And make sure she's nice and secure there, and she is. As I can see here, it is. So there we go. The lens has now been replaced with a brand new, nice and clean one. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to put a little bit of Velcro tape on these tabs. So I'm going to cut it to the same width as you can see on these tabs here, and put it on. I'm not sure why they're using it. Probably some sort of vibration stop or something. But regardless, I'm going to do it because the original equipment had it on there. I wish they'd have shipped it with the glass, but they didn't. So I'll put that on there myself. Okay, well, there's 3 pieces of Velcro tape that I cut. And notice that I'm not using the hook side. I'm using the actual pilly side, or the side with what looks to be like almost like a cloth texture to it. So I'm using that side as the rubber backed, well, as a replacement for the rubber back tape on those tabs. So I'm just going to put it on there. That's the size I've determined to be correct. Notice I'm using gloves here because I don't want to put any oils or anything on the glass with my fingers. Okay, so there we have the Velcro around the tabs, looking very similar to the rubber around the tabs here. So test fit it with my shroud here, and you'll see the shroud has 3 spots in it, right here, here, and here, where those tabs go into. So again, careful with that. Fit it in there, see I get a good fit with that Velcro, and it appears so. That looks great. Okay, so it fits perfect with that Velcro, and it has a nice snug fit as well. So now we just put it back into the car and enjoy the nice clear unscratched glass on that instrument panel. Okay, just wanted to give you a look at the OEM part and part number. Got this again on eBay, and there's your part number for the part. Again, it's the original part. It's not an aftermarket part, straight from Hyundai. Okay, we've done whatever service we were going to do to that instrument cluster, replacing it, changing bulbs, whatever. Now we're going to put it back in, and basically at this point what you want to do is do a test fit. So put in your clips, but don't put them in all the way till they click. It's a bit of a trick figuring out where that is, but put them in snug, and then test your instrument cluster to make sure that everything's working okay, that the lamps that you replaced are doing what they're supposed to do, okay? I've already done that. I don't need to do that. I'm just saying for you to do that. So I'm going to start with the blue cable on the right hand side, top. And this is hard to do when I have to work around a camera. If I didn't have to work around a camera, this would be much easier. Anyway, but do with what we have to do. Okay, so there it is. Just push it in until it clicks. There we go. Click. Next, I'm going to spin it around a little bit. Give me more access to everything. Actually, that probably would have been a better idea from the start, but I wanted you to see that happening. Next, we're going to do the middle connector. They're really short, so you don't have a lot of space. There we go. It clicked in. And last but not least, the left connector, the upper left hand corner, or the driver's side. There we go. And now we just take the cluster and move it in, fit it into its appropriate spot. The screws have little studs. I mean, the actual clips where you're going to put the screws into have a little guide post on each side. The tops don't, but the bottoms do. So make sure you get that in there. And then I would go from the top first, put the top screws in. But don't tighten anything down. Just put them in snug or loosely, and then go from there. So I'm going to do that next, and then we'll put the cowling back on. They're all in there loosely now. I can begin tightening them up. I'll start with the two bottom ones here. That's all four there. Next we're going to put the cowling back in, or the shroud, whatever you want to call it. And basically I'm going to drop the steering wheel again. There we go. And again, if you look at this shroud, you'll see that there's a little pocket for a hook on top of the instrument cluster, and it should slide into that, no problem. And then after that happens, the two clips on the bottom you can push in. So let's do that. There we go. Beautiful. Bottom two clips are in. And not sure whether you can tell or not, but my door light is already on, so I got some function here, and I'll test it all out after I put the last screws in, but I tested it before I screwed it down for the four screws that hold the actual instrument cluster. But at this point, we just put the two, so you can see that again. Now at this point, we just put the two top screws in there, and we're done. Now the top screws are different than the rest. They have a flat head. The other screws have a round top. So if you notice that, you know, you've got a flat screw, don't put it into the instrument cluster. It goes into the shroud. And that way that screws actually are better hidden. Again, I like to put them in loose first and then tighten them after. So. And that's it. That's it for my video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a favor, click on the like button right down here. And you know, if you wish to subscribe to my channel, just click on this link up here. And that should subscribe you to the Richard Lloyd channel, or Richard Lloyd USA channel. Okay, again, thank you very much for your time and watching.